Riverdale is back, and Cheryl's not gonna play. Cheryl Blossom bitches. This past week was the premiere of the second season of Riverdale, and I feel like my TV reviews are going to be the one thing that I do that's completely like unscripted in comparison to some of the other video content I'm going to be working on. I talked about that in the video I updated right before this, but I'll probably try and have it up by Saturday. Have my thoughts on Supergirl, The Flash, and Riverdale. I will never do a proper review of Arrow ever again because fuck that show. No Laurel, no peace. As for Game of Thrones, I have heard you, and I'm actually working on a Game of Thrones review right now, both of this past season, just a general essay about it. So don't worry, I hear you about talking about Game of Thrones, and I will. It's coming, but I have to do my review of this past season, and then also talk about some shit that I've noticed about a YouTuber that I very much like who makes comments about Catelyn Stark. And it's not like to shout out him or anything, but it's more just like, I really feel like we need to have a discussion about how people are mad at Catelyn Stark when Ned Stark is the OG dumbass Stark. Like, that's a fucking idiot, but yet everyone fucking martyrs him because he fucking got his head chopped off. Yeah, because he's stupid. Like, anyway, not the point. Riverdale. So Riverdale opens with Jughead being a even more dramatic narrator than he was in season 1. And I must say though, his prose hasn't improved, but still, Juggy, why are you so extra? But I feel like the thing about this show is that everyone is extra, and they definitely like upped some of those scenes this premiere, and I loved it. All of the sort of like Beetlejuice style fantasy sequences that Fred was having while he was in, you know, the Upside Down, I loved all of them. They were just the right amount of like surrealism and like over the top angstiness, you know. It was just really well done campy cheese that we expect from Riverdale. And I think this premiere was very strong because it kind of pointedly dealt with all of the things that we like about the show and then added a few layers to it. And they're like, Archie Andrews doesn't even have his driver's license yet. I'm like, oh, you don't have your driver's license, Archie? You a child. And every time they mention that, I just remember like, Miss Grundy is a disgusting ass bitch. And then she gets smirked. Thank you. That was like oh yeah, spoilers. Yeah, Miss Grundy being murdered, I cannot find it in me to care because she's a pedophile. And I think that the scene that she's in where she's like taking another home one of her music students proves that she's a pedophile and a predator, and she kind of deserves to die. So I cannot sit here and be like, oh, she's a woman, I feel bad for her. I'm like, she's a child predator, goodbye. So she's gone, thank goodness, because YG was an annoying pestilence of a character extra, and now she's gone forever. Thanks, Riverdale. I love the fact that every time, like the first time we see Betty and Veronica together, they're holding hands. They like immediately just grab for each other after they get the call from Archie about what happened. And I was just kind of like, friendship is magic. Like, that was just solid stuff. And like, I definitely feel like they do a really good job of having Betty and Veronica have that female intimacy that I like seeing in female friendships. Like the way they hold hands, lean on each other, that kind of like closeness and that way of not being afraid of caring for each other. And I like that also Jughead and Archie also are able to show that kind of affection to each other while not being like, bro, you know, they're very like comfortable in their love for each other as friends. And I think they do a really good job of presenting that in the show. Jughead is sort of like doing his amateur sleuth reporting thing, taking way too much glee in all of it, might I add. But he's trying to figure out if the person who shot Fred is part of the, you know, the serpents, one of them that got mad. And of course, instantly Veronica is like, my mother did it, my father did it, they criminals, blah, blah. I'm just sitting here like, but didn't last season we establish that Hermione was not a gangster? Like, she used to be like a Southside Serpent or like implied to be part of that world, but like Smithers said she was good. If we cannot trust Smithers, who can we trust? But I will say this, when they were in that church scene, That was some great shit, dude. I was living for it. When she was just like, I should slap you right now, but I'm not a violent person. I was kind of like, whew. I felt that in my spirit, and it made me really like, I'm welling up right now because I just love fierceness in maternal characters. That's why Alice Cooper is my favorite, because she's like, if that beanie-haired cretin defiled you, I hope you use protection. I was like, Alice, I love you because not only are you being shady, but you're also being sex positive in a weird way. Like, you're like, defiled, which is negative, but use protection, which is positive. I'm like, thank you, Alice, for not tripping and making sure your daughter was receiving safe sex. That's why I love you, because you a crazy ass mama who loves her babies. I loved Hiram's entrance into the show, and just how Veronica is being so extra so fast. There's a way, the thing about Veronica, and I think her relationship to both her wealth and her bitchiness and her good girl and her redemption arc, is that like, there is the Veronica that wants to be good and kind, and I think she is all of those things. But then she'll do or say things that are so entitled, you just want to be like, lock it down, lock it down. It's not that there's anything wrong with her being so like Blair Waldorf about it, but just that even I find Blair Waldorf to be excessive sometimes. And I think that her flagrant disrespect for her parents, at least in terms of her mother, is only half justified. Her father, you know, Hiram's a terrible person, but her mom, it's like I said before, like last season, we kind of established that Hermione does care. She just also cares about the bottom dollar, but I don't think that inherently makes her a character you don't enjoy. So it's always kind of a thing of like, how far are they gonna go with making the parent lodges bad that sort of, you know, validate Veronica's feelings towards him. And I will say this, as someone who's read the comics for like a really long time, it has been interesting how in the modern versions of Riverdale, Hiram Lodge has become a very antagonistic character in the series, because even with the Married with Archie series and the new Riverdale, Hiram is very much maligned for his wealth in a way he definitely wasn't in like earlier incarnations. And I think that just has to do with our changing, you know, political climate. Like, that wealthy 1%er character can no longer be like a jovial, slightly down to earth, because usually in the comics, you know, Hiram was always telling Veronica not to spend money and to, you know, be more charitable and to kind of do good deeds. Part of the reason why they moved to Riverdale in the comics, in the older ones, was because he didn't want Veronica to be so spoiled. So that aspect of his character has very much been removed throughout time. And it is interesting to see now this kind of like Bernie Madoff character that he's sort of become. And it's both, you know, it's necessary for, I think, the climate that we are in to have that character be that way. But I also think it's cool that we have that in the guise of like a Latinx family, of being these sort of like white collar criminals. Other shows that feature Latinx characters, it's usually always drug related, and the lodges are not related to drugs. They're related to sort of like, you know, businesses, housing, those kind of things. So it is an interesting shift that we do get to have those different layers to both the character and also the actors that have been chosen to play this particular family. When it comes to sort of like Veronica and Archie, I hated how Archie, I mean, like, here's the thing, Archie's in a very emotionally vulnerable place right now. So I hated but understood why he like was like, you lost my wallet, Veronica? Fuck! And then Veronica was like, no, I'm gonna stay with you because I can tell you're disturbed. I was like, good job, Veronica. I'm glad you addressed and recognized that he's being like, you know, a sad baby right now. But it's also, you know, but they also treat it like that. It's him having a very visceral emotional reaction to something. And I think that when Archie confesses that the reason that he was ashamed or scared because he was a coward, in his own words, was very interesting, because there's an idea of masculinity being like, oh, this happened, I should just grab the gun, I should just done this, I should have done this and that. But like, Archie's a kid, he's a child, he just saw his father shot, he's been traumatized. And now when you see him at the end scene with like his bat, it's like he's trying now to sort of reclaim his masculinity. It's interesting. I like that narrative choice because it reminds us that Archie, even though the actor is older and they have sexualized him in a lot of ways, he is a child and he needs to be treated like one. The overall MVP of this episode has got to be Cheryl. From the moment she walks down the hall with that dramatic as fuck hair flip and that outfit, I was slayed. I was just like, I can't even, what can I say? What can I say about this? Like when she just held it to, she's like, when you breathe, it's because I give you air. I was just like, that whole monologue, we were blessed to see it. We should all be grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you. If this is where Cheryl is gonna be from now on, I'm here for it 1000%. Like that cool, collected, able to switch from just like sweet innocent to being like, I will destroy you. This is the Cheryl I want, and this is the Cheryl that we deserve. And if she keeps these white ensembles, whew, blessed are us amongst women. Like I'm here for it. And as for Bughead, the strange albatross that is Bughead, because the thing about it too is like I said before in previous videos, I do like Bughead, but I also think we should have had asexual Jughead, and I would love for that to be there, but at this point I think they've gone too far of showing that Jughead is definitely not asexual, or at least as of right now we can say that he doesn't give off the read that he is asexual. But I do still at the same time like their relationship. I like that Betty is able to say like, whatever you do, I'll respect it, I understand it, and how they have a conversation about their father. And just, I feel like what makes Bughead work for me in spite of all of the things that bother me about it is that you can tell that these are two people who care for each other in a genuine way, and that they have a great friendship on top of their romantic relationship. And I think that's why I think Bughead could have still been a great relationship while Jughead was ace, but it's the CW, so they literally don't know how to make non-fucking storylines besides Jane the Virgin. But that's because Jane the Virgin is not really a CW show. I will say new Reggie, super fucking hot. Pussycats looked really great, didn't get to do much, but they looked wonderful doing it. I'm looking forward to Riverdale. I think of all of the shows on the CW right now of that superhero slash comic book ilk, it's the one I'm enjoying the most, because I think Supergirl, while it's a solid show, I really have issues with it, with the Mon-El thing. Mon-El's not a character I enjoy, and I don't really like what they did with Jimmy Olsen, even though I get it. And then the Florida Lima thing was just a fucking hot mess. Like, that should have never been allowed to happen. And yeah, you can't write a character that's supposed to be Latina and then hire an Italian woman to play her. Like, that's fucked up. I'm sorry, Sanverse shippers, like, that's just the hard truth of it all. It's a whitewashing thing, and you guys should not be pro it and be upset when people who are Latino or POC are like, it's kind of racist. Sorry. And then when it comes to The Flash, you know, I just caught up with The Flash, and it's just like, when it's like, it's Salvatore's Barry from the future or some weird time revenant thing, we're all just like, we know. We know. We've been saying this the entire time. We know. Like, it's just, and I just feel like a lot of The Flash needs to be 13 episodes. Not because it's a bad show, but because it loses its own traction. And it needs a tighter, you know, cut in order to really deliver. Because you could take out like the episodes are like, it's 22 episodes a season. If you took out like 7 of those, you'd be good. I love Killer Frost. Caitlin Snow, I think it's the only time she's tolerable as a character, and I hope that as the season comes we get a little bit more of that. And of course, Iris West, fantastic. But so far, I think Riverdale gives me the fun, it gives me the camp. Here's hoping it continues this season. So, what was your favorite part of the Riverdale season premiere? Let me know down below, and I will see you on Saturday.